So for today we're going to be, make sure OBS is actually recording. Today I'm going to be reacting to this video by Channel 4 of a focus group about Labour supporters in the north who have, I think, voted Brexit but are traditional Labour voters. But I do have to add a caveat of this focus group was conducted by this man here, James Johnson, works for JL Partners. Now JL Partners is run by James Johnson and Dr. Tom Lebock. I hope that's how you pronounce the name. I'm sorry if that is not how you pronounce your name. I apologise. But I did put the doctor in front. So anyways, this man here, he worked for May's campaign as a senior opinion researcher and strategy advisor to Theresa May. Now, we know that campaign was a disaster. It was really, really not good. But I suppose he's more than just an opinion researcher, so he's not just asking people questions. He's the one that would probably have created focus groups, and he was a strategist for May. I wonder if it was him who came up with the dementia tax. It could be him. Oh, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? It's him. If he's just a die-hard Tory. So this guy here, he's the one actually conducting the group, but there's also this doctor fella here. He worked for the Conservative campaign, CCHQ. They're quite scummy in themselves, but that'll be a different video, I suppose. But anyway, so a pinch of salt is needed. However, I do want to add the caveat of YouGov was founded by these two guys here. This guy's a Tory, Nadim Zahawi. He's a proper spin merchant he is. I'm not sure if he still works there, in fairness. Probably doesn't, because that'd be a massive conflict of interest. Something worth checking. I'll add an amendment thing if he's left, and if Mr. Shakespeare here is still there. But anyways, JL Partners, they still work. They work for this company. They were founded by this company, so you might need a pinch of salt here, or maybe a spadeful for this video, purely because they might not be honest actors. But then again, it was Channel 4 who hired them, and Channel 4 have done a good job so far. So it could have been a blunder on their part, but then again, they would have options. I think Ipsos Mori could have done this, or many other groups. So yeah, I'm not sure, but without any further ado, let's get into the video.
For Labour again, put your hands up.
Let's turn the speed down.
Okay, and why is that?
Jeremy Corbyn.
So just in case you missed the question, we'll just go back quickly.
Okay, and why is that?
Jeremy Corbyn.
Jeremy Corbyn.
So I just asked on why you wouldn't vote Labour.
James Johnson of JL Partners used a focus group for Theresa May. He gathered some
So yeah, he did do focus groups with Theresa May.
2017 Labour voters who are now on the move.
So you don't think you could be persuaded back? Between now and the
Never say never.
So these people have said no. They've been dissuaded against voting for Labour.
It'll take an awful lot.
Allegedly.
Can Jeremy Corbyn's massive public sector investment offer turn these voters?
best on the NHS at this election?
Well, Labour are going to put a lot more than the Conservatives in, aren't they? Billions of pounds, apparently. Right. But we don't know where they're getting the money from.
So that's the concern.
That's a key point as well, because Labour are always accused of reckless spending, when we know it's actually the Conservatives as well that do a lot of reckless spending. So that's a point that a lot of right-wing media make. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? So that's an interesting one that they've just raised.
And the say,
Yeah,
but it's those specific actions. Where's that
It's going to
money
hit
coming
somewhere
from?
else.
And yeah, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah, that's the biggest concern.
Let's watch Jeremy Corbyn at his manifesto.
This will be.
And if they did actually do some research, they'll know some of it would come from stopping tax avoidance, raising taxes on the rich and whatever. But no one here raised that point.
Investment on a scale you've never known before.
Where from?
I don't trust the word he says.
My views exactly. He just so untrustworthy.
What's
That's interesting. He's so untrustworthy.
broken the trust for these voters in a Labour heartland?
I think that they're old hat, if that's how you'd say it. So I feel like probably my generation, our parents voted Labour, so then we voted Labour, and I think that we've started to rethink it now, and I think that they're kind of dying out.
When you go back to the Tony Blair days,
These are like Gen Xers, I think, anyways, like my dad's generation. Maybe this guy might be... is he a boomer? I don't know.
you know, you had a great leader, and you knew what he stood
He likes Tony Blair.
for, rightly or wrongly, and you trusted him to a certain extent.
Bro, he lied about the Iraq War, man. You trust Tony Blair.
Whereas with Corbyn, nobody knows.
And he's not cited any specific examples of this. You know, if he gave the example of, you know, the Labour Party not dealing with anti-Semitism as well as they could have done, and Corbyn claiming that they've, you know, that he thinks that they're on the right path. If he said that, then fair enough. But he's given no examples here.
It doesn't seem
to
give you confidence.
No, very true.
Easy for the people, really.
I don't know what the Labour Party stands for anymore. I don't. It used to be the working person's, you know, go-to party, but now I don't really know what they stand for.
I think he wants to say immigrants, but I'm not sure.
What do the Labour Party stand for?
I always thought for common working class people.
But some of up north, some of the working, well, a lot of them voted to leave, and he's gone against that, hasn't he? He hasn't said it, but he has.
Many of these voters still argue the lines vote leave pushed at them 3 years ago, and Brexit has helped.
So they still believe these lies, and that's important because they were conditioned by, essentially, Brexiteers who lied. It's clear cut that they lied. It's very evident that they lied, and I'll probably do a separate video on that. So they still believe those lies, and that's important because that means that they're probably going to follow on to the new lies from Johnson and the gang, and that'll be evident in a few minutes.
To prize them from Labour.
I think it's one of the reasons I voted maybe to leave. We're spending so much money in Europe.
Yeah.
As a percentage of the country's whole expenditure, that's not true, and the benefits we get out are massive. So she's probably read that in the Mail. Also.
And we can put it into our own National Health Service.
There's that 350 mil for the NHS. She just spouted it just without the number there.
And schools and education and social work and sort it out here.
For the people that run...
It's a very nationalistic, you know, we need to sort out our own house first, which is not always the wrong view, but in this case, I think someone read a lie on a bus and still might believe it.
In this country, they're billionaires, and for Brexit to happen, it will be a disaster for the very, very wealthy people, not for the likes of us.
See, I laughed so hard when I heard this, right? Because the billionaires may take a hit, right? And say worst case scenario, they lose a couple million. They're still billionaires most likely, but it's going to affect ordinary people. If this man is, you know, a normal working class person, a lot more. The pound drops. That means food goes up in price. Border checks mean it's going to be harder for us to get stuff in via the border. And let's not get started on chlorinated chicken and any potential US deal. But what we know is that food prices will keep going up, and if the economy is not stable, then the minimum wage won't rise. That's something that's a point the Tories have made. So this man's talking absolute nonsense here. And the other point you have to realise is the Tory party are the party of the billionaire class, the millionaire class. So why would they do something inherently that's going to damage the people who fund them? And that's the question that this man has not asked himself, whether that's ignorance or arrogance or whatever. That's the question he needs to ask himself, that why would the Tory party damage and go against their best interests? They have done that with business, in fairness, but the Conservative Party have never been the party for the working class. They've always been the party for the billionaires, or the rich, the owner class, will be a better term. So this man here clearly thinks that Brexit hasn't been done because the working class people want it, the working class people benefit from it, but because it affects the rich, that's why it hasn't been done yet.
So I think that's why it took 3 years, we're now nearer.
I agree with him. It's Boris that's...
Not to mention the Conservatives have been in charge for those 3 years. So... or the last 3 years since Brexit has happened. So, yeah, surely they're not the right answer then if they're trying to protect the billionaires.
Really wants it out. And Farage, but that's another story. But Jeremy Corbyn, he just don't know what he's going to do, is he? He's just sitting on the fence.
How do these voters rate Boris Johnson?
If you can lie to the Queen, you can lie to anybody.
And that's an important point. He's lied to the monarch of the country, wherever you know, I don't like the monarchy, I think it should be abolished. But he's lied to one of the most senior figures in the land.
It's true.
It's true. It's like, you can lie to the Queen. You've got to trust him. And if he's not coming out with this, he's lying to the Queen. He's not admitting what he's done. He's not admitting how many kids he's got.
That's true. He's had a lot of. He's had at least, I think, one child out of wedlock, and he's also said that children to single mothers are illegitimate. So it's awkward if you're his daughter. Really awkward.
Scattered everywhere.
Or should I?
Nobody's perfect,
And this man here, nobody's perfect, ha 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 ha. But he's just taking a massive dig at Corbyn. But nobody's perfect when it comes to Johnson. That's
Boris Johnson is such a character. Is buffoon in some extent, but it's a lovable buffoon.
And that's the magic of Boris Johnson right there, where people won't attribute any bad actions he does to malice or actual intent. They'll say it was an accident. Very similar to Trump, where people try and argue that Trump is too stupid to commit crimes. So because Boris, even the way we talk about him, Boris, we refer to him with his first name. It shows that he's not our mate. You don't know him, but it's been deemed as the likeable idiot, and that means that anything he does, he can get away with because it's just Boris. It's that phrase.
And as straight talking, you'll get an honest answer out of him.
He's a massive liar. He's lied about 350 mil on a bus. He's lied about how easy it will be to get Brexit done. He came up. He said something on the lines of, "It's oven ready. Put it in the microwave." Like what? Honest? No, Johnson is not honest. Come on, mate.
But he'll answer it, and everything he's saying.
He's constantly ducking questions. He's ducking Andrew Neil now. He's scared. Mr. Incredible Hulk is scared.
Has rapport with me.
The lovable buffoon, Boris Johnson.
That is such a... Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, see, look how happy they are to talk about him. Like, he's their mate. He's not a bad guy. He just does stuff by accident. It's not his fault. Similar to like the American Dennis the Menace, where he doesn't do things because he wants to annoy people. He does it by accident.
Perfect.
I want you to think about what kind of headline that you'd expect to see 6 months in to a Boris Johnson government.
The headline
Post-Brexit growth.
So look, this lady here put Brexit Boris. He said it. He's done it. So she, I don't know what exactly she wants from this. Post-Brexit growth, that's not going to happen because it's been forecast we're going to lose about 3% of GDP. So, within the next 6 months, that's definitely not going to happen.
The great back in Britain.
When the question she has to ask herself was, when was Britain great? Because for working class and poorer people, it's not been that great. There were eras where it did quite well, but the question you need to ask yourself was, when was Britain great? The same question that Americans need to ask themselves when Trump asked the question, make America great again. When was it great in the first place?
All ties cut, Brexit.
That's not going to happen because we still have another year. Even if Johnson's deal gets through, it will last until the end of 2020, and he's going to have to figure out a trade deal, some sort of trade deal with the EU, and it's going to have to happen purely because we're a buying country. We import more from them than we export, so we can't cut ties, and a deal has to be done, and that's the top and bottom of it. So that's definitely not going to happen, and that's the sort of the mantra that people believe in now, that you elect this clown and this will be over, the nightmare will be over and it's done. But that's simply not going to happen.
Finally over.
Trade talks with the US ongoing.
This guy's probably the most accurate one. Trade deal with the US ongoing, because it will take a while, unless Boris gets jumpy and he greenlights the deal and we get absolutely walloped and Boris has an affair. Probably.
Boris has an affair.
Second, I give him that. That could very possibly happen. Very possibly.
Boris Johnson's relentlessly...
Interestingly, they did skip over these two people. I don't know if that's for time or what, but maybe they didn't have enough whiteboards. So strange. I think they skipped over this dude as well. Weird.
Repeated message works a dream with these ex-Labour voters.
Get Brexit done and we can focus our hearts and our minds on the priorities of the British people.
What do we think?
And they lap it up. He's just saying, he's not talked anything more specifically. He just said, get it done. Once we go over the hill, we'll figure out, once we're outside, once we're homeless, we'll figure out, we'll find a place to live. And people eat this stuff up.
What do we think of that?
Oh, he's a good, strong speaker, isn't he? He's a good front man.
He's an absolute bumbler. He's a bumbling oaf. When he gives long speeches talking about that kipper and all that stuff, blatant lies, the EU debunked him pretty much straight away. He's not a strong speaker.
Yeah, he's definitely a leader.
That tiny clip there.
Leader where? He's kicked out so many members of his party. He lost his majority.
There was hit on absolutely everything that all of us have spoke about.
And that's the point there where she made, where everything they spoke about is about getting it done. People just want it over with, and that's the problem because it's taken so long. People don't care anymore. They just want this thing done, regardless of how bad it is.
And the slogans have been focus grouped to death. That's no accident.
Who here's kind of thinking about voting for the Conservatives? And if so, put your hand up.
This is where it gets interesting. So all of them, I think, apart from, I don't know if the bold man there is,
everybody?
We can't see.
Who here is thinking of voting for the Conservatives on December 12th? Again, just put your hands up if you want.
And here, everyone, I think, has put their hands up. Is that woman there? I think that's her hand. Yeah, that's her hand. And so all of these former Labour voters, allegedly, well, I'm not going to say, it might be slightly unfair to say that, but all these people who claim they're former Labour voters are going to vote Tory, but just over Brexit and Corbyn, which is really strange. The massive ideological jump. Like, I understand that Boris is talking about, you know, how he's going to spend so much money. He's gone against the typical Conservative mantra. But like, have they not seen the damage that that party has done over the last 9 years?
Okay, so everyone, what's the biggest hesitation about voting Conservative?
Doing something that we don't normally do.
Yeah, mainly.
Taking a different route rather than going with what we've always known.
There's still an element of lack of trust, I think, across all the parties, though. So
it's who you least trust.
And that's interesting, who you least trust. So he's saying he trusts Johnson over Corbyn.
One poll this evening suggests Labour is still getting new recruits from smaller parties to make up for these departing supporters. With a disconnect with many traditional
So there's the issue there, where, you know, he's claiming that Labour are going to get new supporters from maybe young people who aren't the most reliable voters, but, you know, losing these voters is a net loss, isn't it? You know, lose one for us, gain one for them. So I'm not sure, you know, if it will even out like that. There's a chance that, you know, these guys will get, you know, they might get on the day where maybe they don't really care that much, they might not bother to vote, or maybe they have a change of heart, or in the booth, and they think that, you know, do I really want this guy in charge, or this party in charge, or whoever their candidate is? Because that's another important thing. You need to know your local candidate. Like, I really don't like my local Tory candidate. So yeah, you know, if they meet him and they don't like him, then they might not vote Conservative, because obviously you vote for the local person as well as the leader. So that'll be interesting, but I think we'll wrap it up there.
departing supporters. Now, Boris Johnson is the beneficiary, with only 10 days to the election and some postal votes already cast.
That's an also important point as well, because there's still a bit left to go, but postal votes have been cast. So if he's managed to grab that first bit of Labour postal votes, then it will be quite
Gary Gibbon, Channel 4 News, Birmingham.
So yeah, that will do it for this video anyways. Tell me what you think in the comments, like, subscribe and all that stuff. But that's a really haunting video if you're a Labour supporter, and if you're a Labour MP in one of these northern seats. Like I said again, take it with a pinch of salt, because these two guys here, who their website is not good on the eyes, that's for sure. Mr. James Johnson, he's a Tory. Dr. Tom is also a Tory, so it's very possible that they could have done something dodgy with that focus group there. But at the same time, I'm not sure what they gain out of it, because they're not working with the Conservative Party. Well, one of them isn't working at the Conservative. Neither of them are working at the Conservative Party by the looks of things. So yeah, I mean, this guy, he supported Rory Stewart and his campaign. He did okay, but he was never going to be one of the front runners, because he wasn't, you know, he didn't give blood for the Tory party. So, or for like Brexit and stuff like that. He's trying to be the compromise candidate in an era where people don't want the compromise candidate, people want the populist. Very similar to America in that respect, and that's where Rory messed up. People don't want compromise. Compromise is boring. You know, why would I want to give up something that I have in the hopes of achieving something better on when I can have absolutely what I want? So that will do it for this one.